Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tipsy Ghosts. We're your tipsy hosts, Sarah, and Lindsey.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Sarah and I are upset because Lindsey told us she doesn't love us anymore.
This is like that TikTok where I say that's not what I said.
Yes. What did you say then?
I said that I had a glass of wine and some rice wine too. I had 2 glasses of wine.
Please.
And then I said that I didn't want to drink anymore tonight.
So
And
she says she doesn't
took
love us
that
anymore.
as
Our
you
love
don't
language
love
is
us.
wine.
And Boydston said that I'm not funny without alcohol. And that made me feel offended because I am hilarious all the time. But tonight we are going to do a smorgasbord episode. So we're all going to talk about our own things.
Smorgy, smorgy, smorg.
Thank you.
Smorgy, smorgy, smorg.
Ooh.
It sounds better when you're drunk.
Gosh, I hate you. Spin the wheel. Who's going first?
Well, let's just see here. Oh, well, it's me.
It's you.
We were surprised. It's
That's my
Boydston.
name.
It's
There.
Boydston. All right.
What's all that stuff written below your name?
Oh, those are
Like an
ads.
ad.
Oh,
Looks
my
like an ad.
God. It's a description.
You have to see the ads if you're going to do a free spinner.
True.
Don't like ads? Go to premium.
Absolutely.
Nope,
I'm not
we're
paying
good.
for a spin the roller wheel.
I chose to discuss a true crime case.
True crime.
And
Murder.
I really thought you were inhaling to sing.
I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at Boydston. I'm sorry.
she would have if she were drinking.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the
That's exactly
person
what I
who
was
was
thinking.
talking. I'm so sorry.
Don't do that.
Don't look at my mouth.
Don't look at her mouth.
Just going to look at Sarah now.
Okay.
No,
that.
that feels weird. Please don't.
Where do I look?
Me,
Lucy?
I'm speaking.
Okay, but not
Just
your
not her
mouth.
mouth.
Just not my mouth.
Your
Like eyes. Eye contact.
Never heard of it. It's mouth contact.
Ew. Well,
This sounds like something pornographic.
Luckily, your microphone's in the way. Lucky for you. I'm imagining.
you guys, I rearranged.
You're imagining her mouth?
I moved my positioning where we record.
I get it now. You did this on purpose.
You know I didn't, but this is just a happy accident.
Sure it is.
Oh, you
Sa-
did this because she
Sarah
was looking
likes
at your mouth?
Sarah likes to watch my mouth when I talk.
I'm a mouth reader.
And that makes me incredibly uncomfortable.
Lip reader. Mouth reader.
It's a combination of mouth breather and lip reader.
I wondered why you rearranged us. I mean, I'm not mad.
No, I really did it to make
I
it more
get it now.
conversational, but now I realize that she can't watch my mouth.
I'll find a way.
I
Okay.
have the perfect view of her mouth, but I'm
Perfect.
not looking at it.
Now you can make her uncomfortable.
So we're talking about murder.
We are talking about true crime,
Uh-huh.
and I gave you a tagline. So his name's Hans Schmidt,
Hans Schmidt.
and he is the only Catholic priest ever executed in U.S. history.
Oh my
Oh,
word.
he's a bad priest.
Yeah, and so I just saw that tagline and I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I'll do this story. And then as I was getting into the story, I was like, oh, this is terrible. So
Gosh.
maybe some trigger warnings. Yeah.
All the warnings.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of,
I mean,
what has a Catholic priest ever done that's bad? Oh, I don't know.
oh boy.
Here we go.
Anyway, so Hans Schmidt is described as an unusual child. Or he was an unusual child.
He is a child?
He is not currently.
they executed a child?
Very bizarre.
No. He was unusual.
Okay.
Got it.
He was born
Sounds
in
weird.
Yeah, he was born in Germany in 1881 to a Protestant father and a Catholic mother, with both sides having a long history of mental illness. So things are already.
Oh.
I'm just saying. We talk about the
I
recipe
know.
for a sociopath. Here we go.
Protestant
go.
father, is that what it is? Catholic mother.
No.
Mental health.
Mental health.
Got it.
History.
That was
That you sprinkle that in. So now we're going to sprinkle
Sprinkle
in
in
lots
mental
of other
health
things.
history. There we go. I mean, who doesn't have mental health history
Right.
nowadays? But I guess.
It's a pinch of something, but it's not the main components.
Got it.
Bacon
here,
and cake.
Dash.
adding to the cake, he was regularly beaten by his father,
Oh,
There it
boy.
is.
and also witnessed his father beating his mother.
Okay, we're adding in a cup of some physical
Abuse.
and domestic violence. Okay.
Okay,
Terrible.
and we're going to top off the cake. The next sentence is a direct quote from Wikipedia because it's a lot, and
Okay.
I didn't quite know how to summarize it.
Let's do it.
Quote, even in childhood, Schmidt combined a deep religious devotion with bisexual promiscuity and a fascination with drinking blood and dismembering animals.
Okay.
The animal part and the drinking blood part, that's like 3 cups worth. We're just going to pour that in.
Right. Yeah. I see how you couldn't like summarize that. I mean, like
No.
bisexual, like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then we took a turn about drinking blood and
that's
animal.
not what I thought was going to follow bisexual.
Mm.
No, yeah, I didn't know how to break that sentence down, so I just
Just got a quote.
Just threw it in there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
He once beheaded 2 geese
Oh, boy.
and kept the severed heads in his pocket.
There's another half a cup.
And he had a slightly strange childhood hobby. Any guesses?
Setting fires.
Okay.
Beheading geese.
We already know that one.
That is a strange behavior.
Sarah's closer.
Dang it.
Killing animals.
He liked to spend his afternoons watching the cows and the pigs be processed through the local slaughterhouse.
Oh my god.
Oh, my face. If y'all could see my face.
Oh my face. That is extreme.
That's going to be a third of a cup. Okay.
Lizzie's still baking a cake over here.
It's not a very good tasting cake.
This is a ketchup mustard cake.
It's not going to taste good.
It's awful. Pickle juice.
Hans was also intrigued by Roman Catholic rituals and played priest with a homemade altar.
Okay.
Okay. Some hyper religious devotion can be not healthy as well.
Yeah, so all these things would later be called foreshadowing.
Ooh, that is a literary term. Look at you.
That was so condescending. I just don't.
Not being condescending.
That's from books, and I know you don't read them. So.
She's talking to the wrong person. I don't read.
I was impressed.
It makes more sense coming
I was
from you.
impressed.
Thank you. I actually came up with that myself.
You're a good reader, remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and Hans is 25 years old and is ordained in Germany.
Okay.
During his later seminary years, he was arrested and charged by Bavarian police for forging diplomas for failing students.
Oh, okay.
His father hired a lawyer who arranged for the charges to be dropped, quote, for reasons of mental defect.
So mental defect and criminal activity, we're going to add in a third of a cup for both of those.
Oh, she's still making her cake.
It has not been baked. We're still mixing.
We're still putting the ingredients together. I don't even know what the story is yet.
Oh my. Okay.
During parish assignments, Hans molested altar boys, had affairs with several women, and socialized with sex workers.
Okay.
He also had a strange way of performing sermons and saying mass, and both fellow priests and parishioners complained a lot. And because there wouldn't be any further assignments for him because of this, he immigrated to the United States in 1909.
Okay.
Initially, he went to Louisville, Kentucky, but there was a disagreement with the senior pastor there, and this resulted in his transfer to St. Boniface Church in Manhattan.
Okay.
Around the same time, a young Austrian housekeeper is hired at the rectory, and her name is Anna Müller. Hans claims to have heard a voice from God, so this might be part of your cake, hearing voices. But maybe from God, I think that might be semi-normal.
I mean, if he's a man of faith,
Yeah.
you could say it's praying. Yeah.
So,
Depends on what it is.
We're going to put that off to the side.
Yeah.
You might add it in.
I'm like, where's it going, though?
It's ready to be added in if needed to the cake.
Okay, I'll come back to
Sounds
you.
like it's not going to be good.
Yeah, so a voice from God ordering him to love Anna, but she initially refused his advances. Not sure why.
He sounds perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Wait, he's a priest? Aren't they supposed to be abstinent or celibate?
Hold on to that one.
He got heard a voice from God
Oh,
that it was
okay.
okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hold on to this, because they eventually have a secret affair.
Okay.
She said yes eventually.
But Anna's not the only one. He was also having a secret relationship with a dentist named Ernest Muret, who, by the way, Hans was operating a counterfeit ring with.
You know what?
Some
Hans
more
is
illegal
busy.
activity.
He is busy.
Mixing business and pleasure.
That is true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So a year later, Hans performs a secret ceremony to marry Anna. So basically, he just signed his own marriage license.
I was going to say.
He's like, guess what?
What priest
We're
would marry a
married.
priest?
I can do it. I don't even have to ask.
Who cares that I took a vow to God to be celibate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of... It's already dark, so we're just going to
Keep going.
trudge forth.
I mean, we've already got a pretty disgusting cake going on right now.
We do. Soon after, during sex with Anna on the high altar of a church, Hans claims to have received a command from God telling him to sacrifice Anna.
Okay.
That's the last ingredients I'm going to pour. Remember I said I was setting it aside? Mm-hmm. It's going into the cake, and now the cake's getting ready to go in the oven.
It's about to be ruined.
I thought that might happen.
I mean, it was already almost there, but here we are.
Of course you thought that might happen. You know the story.
Had a feeling it was coming.
Had a feeling this was going to turn bad.
It's based off my foreshadowing.
That's a literary term.
Good job, Sarah.
Thank you. And so later this same year, Anna tells Hans that she is pregnant. So imagine if word got out that this celibate priest is married and also has impregnated a woman. He knew that his days as a priest would be numbered.
Yep.
So his solution was to slash Anna's throat with a 12-inch long butcher knife in the apartment that he rented for her. Their little secret place. And he drank her blood. And then he sawed off her head with a hacksaw and sliced her body in half and finally dumped her remains in the Hudson River.
Good grief.
That is some overkill, Hans.
Yes.
Intense.
Your cake tastes disgusting. It's out of the oven.
You tell him.
I do not like this.
This is a terrible cake.
You are a terrible person.
That's true.
That's why it tastes bad.
And he did all of that with enough time to return to the church to offer mass and administer communion.
Oh, well, bless him.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding.
Man.
Unfortunately for Hans, Anna's body washed up a few days later, and police were able to trace the remains back to Hans via a pillowcase with a price tag still on it, which in my opinion is very impressive.
That is impressive.
Especially for the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Well done.
Basically, it was like really good detective work. So the pillowcase manufacturer sold only through one store, and the store owner had a record of it being sold, as well as some other bedding, and delivered to the apartment where Anna was murdered.
Wow, impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
They searched the apartment, found men's clothing labeled H. Schmidt, and found documents like letters that Anna had written that gave his full name.
Man, it's like everything really just aligned as far as the clues go.
Mm-hmm. Detectives questioned the apartment manager, and they were directed to the church where they found Hans. Within minutes, he confessed to the marriage and murder and said, "I loved her. Sacrifices should be consummated in blood."
Okay. Oh, Hans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, during the trial, they tried the insanity defense, claiming Hans was hearing voices and also that mental illness ran in the family. But a witness testified that Hans had convinced her to pose as Anna and take out a $5,000 life insurance policy under her name, listing Hans as the sole beneficiary. And that, friends, is motive.
Yeah, and he also, not only motive, but he knew her going public was going to ruin things, so he planned it out. He knew what had to be done. It wasn't an impulse, spur of the moment thing.
No. The jury convicted him of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to death by the electric chair. Before execution, he said, "My last word is to say goodbye to my dear old mother." And he was executed in February of 1916 and buried in an unmarked grave. To this day, he is the only priest to ever be executed in the United States.
Good riddance, Hans.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, so that's Hans, and that was our baking special.
Yeah, do not recommend that cake. It's very bad.
Hans is an asshole.
Yes, he is. Okay, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
The story.
Kind of sounds like one of the characters from Asylum again.
Shall I spin again?
You shall
Let's do
spin. Again, we don't know. It's a surprise.
Who's going to be?
Oh, you got a cheering squad.
Sarah,
It's me.
Sarah.
Okay.
She looked at you when she said that. So
Oh, well, listen, I can't see her.
I'm hiding.
At one point, I noticed I was like doing this, leaning out to the side, and I thought, I can't do that. It's going to be weird. All right, well, I'm going to talk to you guys. I didn't know how else to classify it, so I called it a phenomenon.
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 Na, 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 na.
Phenomenon.
Na, 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 na.
It is spontaneous human combustion.
Oh, yes.
Spontaneous human combustion.
Combustion.
There goes another one.
Function. Nope.
There really is a song.
You know, I think
this is an awesome topic. I'm excited.
I love hearing these stories, and it's also terrifying because it can happen to, you're going to tell us.
It's spontaneous.
It's spontaneous. Could happen to me right now in this chair. It is defined as the pseudoscientific concept of the combustion of a living or recently deceased human body without an apparent external source of ignition.
How is it pseudoscience?
There are some debates about that, but the actual definition is described as pseudoscientific, unfortunately. It's a belief that the fire starts within the body of the victim, and there are usually 3 characteristics that are involved.
Can we guess?
Okay, yeah, go ahead and try to guess.
All right, so
what
what
are
are we
some
guessing?
of the characteristics that are, there's 3 main characteristics that are involved at SHC.
A higher level of fat.
Okay,
I'm going to
Good
say alcoholism.
also good guess.
Having
Oh, we can multiple guesses. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, so while those things are, yes, typically involved, and I'm going to touch on those here in a minute,
Mhm.
the things that I'm looking for,
We're both wrong. We're both wrong.
they're both wrong. It's that the surroundings of the site of the fire are not drastically damaged.
Okay.
All right, so maybe like the walls or the ceiling.
Like nothing else is burned.
Correct.
Okay.
There's no visible source of the fire,
Okay.
and parts of the body are left intact adjacent to the ashes where the victim is found. This idea and term were both first proposed in 1746 by Paul Rowley, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Paul.
In an article about the mysterious death of Countess Cornelia Zangari Bondi. That is a mouthful. And we'll talk about her more here in just a bit, but she had a very suspicious death that they believe was SHC.
Sack.
Yes.
SAC.
It's HC. Chick. Well, spontaneous human combustion is a mouthful, but
It is. I like.
so they say
FHC.
SH. For the love. Did you say FHC?
I said SHC.
Oh, okay.
I promise.
Okay. Well, the topic of SHC
Uh-huh.
received some coverage in the British Medical Journal. Oh, God, I can't read. In the British Medical Journal in 1938, an article stated that there were some common characteristics among the recorded cases of SHC, including, and this is regarding the victims. So,
This is where
here
we
you go.
come in.
Chime in. What did you want to say?
Alcoholism.
A high fat content.
Okay. The victims are typically chronic alcoholics.
Yes.
They're usually elderly females.
Mm.
The body has not burned spontaneously, but some lighted substance has come into contact with it. That's what they found.
Mm-hmm.
And the hands and feet usually fall off.
Oh.
They also found that the fire has caused very little damage to combustible things in contact with the body.
Okay.
Strong work, Lindsay. Apparently I was wrong.
You're not wrong. I mean, that leads to a theory here in a moment.
Just thought alcohol is a,
It's flammable.
it's highly flammable. And I thought,
This is probably tied into the higher fat content. The combustion of the body has left a residue of greasy and fetid ashes,
no.
which is a very offensive odor. I had to look it up. Alcoholism seemed to be the common theme in early SHC literary references. Maybe because some Victorian-era physicians and writers believed that SHC was the result of alcoholism. So they've kind of tried to make it seem like if you were an alcoholic, like this was going to happen, you're going to burn up in flames no matter what. An extensive 2-year research project was conducted in 1984 by science investigators Joe Nickel and forensic analyst John F. Fisher.
Fisher Nickel.
Fisher Nickel. Yes, let's see. That was their names.
Good one.
Looks good.
Who's clever?
I know.
You're on it with those names. Their report was published in the Journal of International Association of Arson Investigators, as well as a book called
Jai?
What?
Journal?
JOIAOA.
Joy.
There's too many vowels there. No, we need another consonant. I need a consonant.
It's all vowels.
No,
Except
I
for the
don't like
first.
it.
Joy.
And they did a book.
Joy. That's what
That was so impressive.
That was really good. I can't even mimic that.
Thank you.
Was that a spring? A real spring?
It was a spring, yeah.
It sounded like it, didn't it?
I'm embarrassed.
Don't be. That was beautiful.
You're just really good at sound
That was
effects.
the best thing that I've heard all day.
Well, now nothing is going to compare to the rest of it, but it involved 30 historical cases of alleged SHC from the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. It showed that the burned bodies were close to plausible sources for the ignition, including candles, lamps, fireplaces, and so on. These sources were often omitted from published accounts of these incidents, probably to make it seem like it was definitely spontaneous human combustion.
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't think it's real. I'm just saying that that's what happened. They also found, again, that there was a correlation between the death and the victim's intoxication, which could likely have caused them to be careless and unable to respond properly to an accident. They thought that the victim's clothing could possibly have been a source of fuel. Sometimes the victim was on a chair or a rug, which were also considered flammable. Some other natural explanations could include the fact that almost all cases were people with low mobility, either due to age or poor health, and cigarettes were often seen as the source of fire. Either the victims fell asleep with a cigarette, or maybe they had a heart attack and died, causing them to drop the cigarette. The other hypothesis is something called the wick effect, which kind of alludes to what you were mentioning, Boydston, earlier, where the clothes act as a wick, setting fire to the body, and it sets like the fat on fire, basically, from the inside out. And this has actually been tested quite a bit scientifically. If you ever want to...
How did they test it?
Cremated bodies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, some of the examples, probably the most famous example is that of Mary Reeser. And on the evening of July 2nd, 1951, in St. Petersburg, Florida, she was visited by her son, Dr. Richard Reeser. She told her son that she had taken 2 Seconal tablets, and these are mild sedatives and can also be used as sleeping pills. I was not very familiar with these. Maybe they were like old school tablets. I don't know.
Yeah.
She also mentioned that she might take a few more before bed.
Okay, why not?
All right, so she'd already taken 2, but she was like, I'm going to take a few more, I think.
Get out with your bad self.
Yeah. Later that night, she fell asleep in her upholstered chair.
Okay.
That's important.
Fabric. Got
Yeah,
it.
fabric. Lots of fabric. The next morning, her landlady reported smelling smoke around 5 a.m. and again later at 8 a.m. The landlady also discovered soot in the hallway leading to Mary's apartment. She tried to get into the apartment, but the handle was too hot. So she asked some nearby painters to help open the door. I think they just busted it down.
I was like, why aren't you going in the fire department?
That's a good question.
If you smell smoke, you
It's
see
hot.
soot, and the door handle is hot,
Your first thought is, let me get a painter.
get the painters.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes
That's
sense.
smart.
Inside of the apartment, they found the cremated remains of Mary Reeser. Her skull had reportedly shrunken to the size of a cup. I don't know why I find that so funny.
I mean, I would think it would disintegrate.
Typically, they don't shrink, and that's why it was fascinating, because
Okay.
it was still a skull, but like shrunken skull.
Yeah, not like misshapen like you would.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Interesting.
It's the size of a tiny cup. They also found part of her spine, but the weirdest thing was that they found her foot still in the shoe, and her skin on the foot was not burned. It was completely intact.
Wow.
Everything else, every other part of her was ash. So, according to cremation experts, the body needs to be burned at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 4 hours to be cremated. So that's a long time.
That's a long time to be burning and nobody
At a high
to
temperature.
smell that.
Exactly. Aside from where she was sitting, everything else in the apartment had been pretty much unaffected. The walls right next to where she was sitting were not damaged at all. The ceiling was blackened from soot and smoke, but the lower walls were not. Some light switches were melted, but the outlets were all intact and functioning. She had some wax candles near where she was sitting, and they had melted, but the wicks had not, and they were still standing upright. A stack of newspapers nearby were completely undamaged. Neighbors were completely unaware of the fire, yet firefighters who came on scene found the heat so intense that they couldn't stand it. They couldn't even stand to be in there, but neighbors didn't have a clue. Experts found it very bizarre that she could be cremated, but a large part of her apartment was still completely intact. So samples from the chair, rug, debris around her, and smoke from the walls were sent to an FBI crime lab for analysis, but they did not find traces of combustibles. They did find melted fat in the rug. They tried to find the source of the fire, but a local mattress company chimed in and said that the chair stuffing would not ignite in flames enough to cremate her. They said that it would only smolder and not ever reach the temperature needed. An electrical fire was also ruled out. So, Mary, however, was seen the night before with a cigarette. So, FBI and police believe that she fell asleep while smoking. And some theories include the following. Some of them are just bizarre, so bear with me. The first one is a ball of fire came through the open window and hit her.
No.
Oh my God. It's like an alien beam.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a winner.
Just perfectly aimed at her, yes.
Yeah, just at her, not her foot.
Nope.
Another one is it was started purposely by some combustibles, but again, according to the coroner, they would be able to trace those, and they were never able to find any. The last theory was that she was a victim of spontaneous human combustion, which is what we like to think.
Mm-hmm.
So there have actually been about 200 recorded cases of SHC. The earliest was in 1470 in Italy, when a man burst into flames after a night of drinking. Again,
Drinking.
just out drinking with your friends, and your friend may be teetering on the alcoholic side, and then they burst into flames. My gosh, that's horrible.
There went Joe.
Okay, so we came back to Cornelia from the beginning. So in 1745, Countess Cornelia Bondi, again, she was from Italy. She was found burnt into a pile of ashes with only her legs intact. In 1982, Jean Saffin, her family claims that they saw her burst into flames in front of their eyes.
That would be so traumatizing.
Oh my gosh, yes. Have you seen Hereditary?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Horror movie, and one of the people just burst into flame in front of their family.
It's SHC. But it's interesting because that's like one of the fewer times when people have actually witnessed it, because usually it's them by themselves.
By themselves, right.
Right. And more recently, 2010, Michael Faherty, I think that's how you say that, from Ireland.
That's real recent.
Yeah. The coroner claimed that SHC was the cause of death when he was found burned in his home with none of his surroundings destroyed. That was interesting. It was a coroner report.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't
it could be an actual cause of death.
It can't be pseudoscience if it's on a coroner's report.
I know. Anyways, so one of the things that I found particularly interesting while I was researching this was that nobody actually tried to get up and escape. Like, they all stayed put when they caught fire. Like, if you were on fire, you try to get up and run out.
You stop, drop, and roll.
You stop, drop, and roll. Or you run away.
Right.
If your chair is on fire, you try to run away. So none of them had done that. They were all in the same spot. So very interesting. What are your thoughts?
I would think the death would be almost like instant. And that's why they're not getting up and moving. Like, if it's burning that hot to melt everything.
So are you a believer then in spontaneous human combustion?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. I like it. Boydston, I feel like I know your answer, but yes.
No.
You don't believe in it?
No, I just...
Yes, she was offended that it was called a pseudoscience right away.
I was like, what? You don't believe? Okay.
Let me do my story again.
Let me just start from the beginning.
I don't think you heard me. Let me tell the story again.
I'm sure that's just what you wanted, for me to fumble through that story again.
No, you did excellent.
So you're a believer then. Okay, cool.
And what about you?
I am I am. So it's frustrating because when I read like the description and like the journals and everything like that, then I feel like, well, yeah, I could see how there was probably a source and they were, fell asleep and maybe they were drinking and took sleeping pills, blah, blah, blah. And they just didn't get up because they were tired and didn't notice. But then you hear all these stories of people that actually it happened to, and you're like, I think it did. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle, leaning more towards, yes, it's definitely a thing.
I think it's just something so rare that we're not ever going to have enough like evidence.
Right. I mean, to me, it's kind of similar to like paranormal stories. Like, yeah, well, how are you going to prove it?
Mm-hmm.
That it's actually there? And every time you do prove it, then somebody's always going to question it.
Right. It is interesting that it doesn't spread to the walls or anything like that.
It just stays put and then it goes out. The fire does.
Aliens.
It's always alien. They're the ones who sent the fireball through the window, is my guess.
Yes.
Fireball, I'm going to say no to.
You don't like that theory?
I didn't like that theory.
I didn't outright call it aliens, but that was what
when
I was
in
hinting
doubt,
towards.
You are aliens. We are going to Colombia. So we are going to talk about the Hotel del Salto. So this is located near the capital of Bogota. And that is in a town called the San Antonio del Tacandama region. And this is on top of a huge waterfall called the Tacandama Falls. Okay.
Huh, clever.
So this is first, it didn't start out as a hotel. It started out as a mansion that was built by an architect, Mr. Carlos Arturo Tapias. And he built it in 1923, and this was like his residential mansion, but because he was an architecture, he was an architecture, because he was into architecture.
Yes, there you go.
It was very lavish, very elegant, ginormous, and so he had some very wild parties there in the 20s. It was the roaring 20s there.
This is Great Gatsby style.
It was. So it was so popular because this area is very popular because of the waterfalls, and it was a tourist attraction, and his mansion was hugely popular. He decided to make it into a hotel in 1928. So he built an addition on and opened it as a hotel to welcome wealthy tourists. Like I said, the falls are opposite of the hotel, so they were getting a lot of traffic. So he had plans to reconstruct it again into an 18-floor hotel, but it never began. And this place is huge as it is, so like 18-floor hotel is just like ginormous to me. But he never actually did begin it. So the hotel did close in the early 1990s for a variety of reasons. One, tourists were kind of losing interest in the area. Two, Bogota was really, becoming more populated at that point. And so because of that, sewage was beginning to flow in the river. And so the Bogota River flows into these falls. And because of all the pollution, it was not good. They said the air just smelled like sewage.
Yikes.
And that's not very fun to go to if you're staying in a luxury hotel. They also built a hydroelectric plant upriver that made the falls not impressive. They said it made it turn into like a leaky faucet.
Oh my God.
Or it was just like this gushing waterfalls, and it's just like dribble. So because of all of this, the pollution, the plant that they did upriver, they just closed the hotel. Okay.
Bummer.
And it sat vacant for many, many years. We're going to get to what it's like now, but we're going to get to the paranormal part of it.
Ooh.
Okay, so according to local legend, the indigenous Muisca Indian tribe used to jump from the falls in the 16th century. And this was when the Spanish conquerors were trying to... That sounds really stupid, Lindsay. Why'd you do that? I put when the Spanish conquerors were conquering South America.
That makes sense.
They were storming through South America, and
they were taking over.
Yes, they were taking over, and the Muisca tribe, they were trying to avoid being captured, so they believed that if they
that's sad.
fell, they would transform into an eagle and fly to their freedom.
Okay.
But
so
they
maybe
all
not
jumped.
sad to them, but they...
Not
okay,
sad
yeah,
to them.
I get
They were doing it, and they believed that they would be transformed. All right, so this story attracted people from all over who also leapt to their deaths from the hotel's cliffs overlooking the falls. But it's literally like you got the road, and then it's just like off on the side of the road, like on a cliff overlooking it. So it's really looks a little freaky. So I can see how people could jump.
Freaky.
She freaky. It looks haunting.
Ooh.
The hotel is also the scene of several suicides. Many believe that the hotel is haunted because of this. It is also said that hotel guests would leap to their deaths out of the windows for no reason. Nowadays, some people say maybe they were just so drunk because it's party time there and they just stumbled off of the balcony and fell to their death.
Man, these are unsafe balconies.
Yeah, not safe balconies.
Good grief.
A homicide did take place there as well, where a young socialite was brutally murdered by a guest in her room and the walls were covered in her blood. Guests have said that they have seen apparitions around the hotel at night, including the ghost of the murdered socialite, and they also report hearing loud screams coming from the hotel. So, like I said, it remained empty for many years, but in 2011, the Ecological Farm Foundation of Porvenir and the National University of Columbia Institute of Natural Sciences, they began a joint restoration effort of the hotel's intricate architecture, and their mission was basically to convert the hotel into a museum that would serve as a national symbol of cultural heritage and environmental restoration. And P.S., I don't think I mentioned this, but Hotel del Salto translates to Hotel of the Leap.
Oh, no. That's not great.
Kind of lends to its haunted history.
Wait, why did they name it that?
Because I think that it got attention for that. I mean, we know
like,
places...
did they know the history? Surely they knew the history.
It seems insensitive.
That's what I mean. Like,
So when he built it, it was like his mansion. He didn't name it anything, but then when he opened it as a hotel.
I mean, yeah, it probably brought attention and money, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So in August 2013, the mansion reopened as a museum, and that is what it is today. They said the air still smells like sewage from the pollution, but people just go there as a museum instead of staying for days and days. I guess they don't mind it. But that is
temporary.
The history of the Hotel of the Leap.
Fascinating. Where'd you hear about that?
I honestly don't know where I heard about it. I think I was just looking at, like, I knew I wanted to do a place, and I was looking at just, like, haunted, like, weird stories or whatever. I Google weird things to get what I get. And it was, like, these weird stories that are true. And it was, like, talking about how people leapt from their deaths there. And I was like, oh, this is cool.
Fascinating.
Yep. There you go. So who knows if it's actually haunted, but there were definitely a lot of deaths that happened at that hotel. So,
Wow.
Okay. You guys want to go there?
Yes. I don't want to drive on that road to get there. That road looks horrifying.
It looked terrifying.
Mountains and cliffs just kind of scare me.
Yeah, there's like no safety guard.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully by now they have. That was, he shot that like in 3 or 4 years ago, and they reopened it in 2011, so hopefully they've done more safety guards, but who knows. In the 20s when it opened, definitely not.
He had to pay $10 to get through the guards, so I'm doubting that they really care too much about, like...
He was even like, I don't know if we'll be allowed in, and he said they just saw somebody walking around and asked if they could come in.
Oh my gosh.
He said he was
really
I feel
like we could get in there. Maybe we just walk.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Well, he went in the daytime too.
I'm going to politely decline.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, fine.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in to our Smorgasbord episode. You can always find us at thetipsyghost.com with our socials linked from there, or send us an email at thetipsyghost@gmail.com.
Please give us a 5-star rating and a great review anywhere you listen to podcasts. We greatly appreciate it, and it really does help.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. We will catch you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.